We're now going to move on to our Nordic Talk panel. We know that if we need to build resilience and transform our systems, are we having the right skill set today, or do we need to change the skill set to the next generation? To explore this, we will listen to a panel that is sponsored by the Nordic Council of Ministers and is part of its Nordic Talk series. So I would like to start with a short film just to introduce the Nordic Talk concept. Let me introduce our panelist, Fadi Barakat. He's Business Development Manager at Malmö City. Michelle Ndebele. She's the Senior Play and Health Specialist at Lego Foundation. Binette Seck, Concept Leader and Co-founder of ChangersTech. And Caroline Stiernstedt Sahlborn, Partner at the Inner Foundation. Okay. Welcome, welcome. This session, or this panel, is called Future-Proofing Our Societies, the Skills of Tomorrow. And I'm so happy that you all are here, first of all. Thank you very much for joining us. To give the audience an understanding on who you are and what you strive to achieve, I would like to start with the question, what motivates you?
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me and for having me on this esteemed panel. I would have to say what motivates me today personally and professionally is this idea of working towards a world where children, in all of their uniqueness, in all of their diversity, are able to enjoy their right to play, they're able to enjoy their right to learn, and they are thriving. I think what's been driving me across my career journey is kind of collaborating with others to break barriers, whether that's in health systems in my previous work, or whether that's in learning systems now in the Lego Foundation, where I'm working with social enterprises and social entrepreneurs that have innovative, inclusive, playful learning concepts for neurodivergent children. So it's really about breaking barriers, making learning systems much more accessible, making them much more inclusive and just more playful and child-centered. That's what drives me.
Thank you very much.
I'm up next. The thing is that the thing that motivates me is I want to be the last one in my generation facing limitations, such as not having a role model, a real role model, a person I can relate to, not having the network that I need in order to get a job or opportunities or become the entrepreneur that I want to become. I also want to be the last person facing limitations such as knowledge. You know, we have a lot of it online, and a lot of it is for free. But what makes me transfer or transmit whatever knowledge I acquire into competence? Because that's the key question. Anyone can and should be able to acquire knowledge, but you need a place and a space to transform your knowledge into competence, because that's how you can get yourself to action and to change. The last one, I also want to be the last one, facing the uncertainty that do I really deserve a better life? Because when you're surrounded with adults and change makers and people that can affect your life, teachers, parents, Anyone that is in authority, what you're waiting for is someone to tell you you're worthy of a better life. But before someone tells you, you gotta kind of feel it, right? And you have to be reminded why you are worthy of a better life. Those are the 4 main limitations I faced growing up. And in my daily work, I'm using the 4 limitations and transforming it into opportunities for the next coming generation. That motivates me.
Thank you, Binette. Caroline?
That feels.
Yeah.
What motivates me? Progress. The deep knowing that we can progress, both collectively and individual, that we can grow. So I think what really motivates me comes from frustration. Comes from a frustration that why can't we do better? And that is hard, because the flip side is, of course, my struggle. There is a lot of talks today about partnership, about social entrepreneurship, but I think what's all about, it's about collaboration, as you were saying. So for me, my deep motivation is, and I would put it in another word, and that is collective leadership. So knowing that we can do things better collectively. And that has been my really the red thread through my life, is learning to know and also work with how can we do things better together. And also seeing that comes with the knowing that what do I have to learn in order to understand you better? And what do you have to learn to understand me better? So that's really been motivating me, that the progress, we can do a lot more together. So how do we really thrive collective leadership?
Thank you.
So beautiful to hear you all. I'm almost in tears. The question is quite complicated for me to answer, what motivates me, but I'm going to give you a short answer. Actually, justice motivates me, and injustice gives me the fuel to make a change and make an impact in society. And I guess my main goal is to hack the central nervous system of society, try to make a change, an impact where we can change the structures in society. I'm not talking about doing projects that in the end will end up, in the recycle bin. I'm talking about really, really hacking the system and programming in new aspects to it that makes it more of a just system for all. Even Sweden as a country that is considered to be very equal in many ways has a lot of issues. We can only see the elections and the results of the elections. We're going to face a lot of challenges ahead. And I believe that we all need to hack the system in that way. So I'm a little bit rebellious.
It sounds good. Thank you for giving us a little bit of background of what motivates you, and also from the different sectors you're in. You're all sitting on very unique perspectives, which brings me to my next question. From your perspective, what are the key skills of tomorrow?
I'll start. It's the holistic skills. So it's the social skills, your creativity, communication, the social emotional skills that children need in order to be able to develop into capable, confident young people that are ready to take on the challenges that adulthood can throw at you. And we've seen through research that the best way and the most natural way that children learn is through play. And that goes for learning how to get on with others or learning how to regulate one's emotions. So as we work to ensure all children have a fair chance to learn, we also need to make sure that when they leave school or other learning environments, yes, they're leaving with their literacy and numeracy skills, but they're also leaving with a full social and emotional toolkit that can help nurture a resilient, a more adaptable generation for our complex world.
Thank you very much. Binette?
I mean, in order to just answer that kind of question, you kind of have to look into the future. And how many of us know what the future brings? We don't know. But we do know history, and we do know the tendencies that we have today. I see, because I'm in the field of technology, it's not an industry, it's within every single industry. So it has to do with going back to the details of who we are. We're serving people still, and I think that will still be part of the future. I hope so. We are in need of products and services, but we are also in higher need of each other more now than ever. So the skills of tomorrow are linked, it's intertwined with what we think are the future behaviors. 90% of the world's jobs will be ICT related. It's information communication technology. It's not the Swedish jobs, it's the world's jobs. Because whatever we do and create in Sweden can affect the world, and whatever we create on the other side of the world will affect us. So having the demographics of countries where a lot of people are under the age of 20 or 25 even, how will that affect the way we create products and services? One of the key skills, apart from understanding what technology has for us, is to be brave and to be curious enough to acquire another skill, which is continuous learning. It's never too late to learn, and it should never be too late to relearn and just hit the reset button and say, from now on, based on where I am and where I stand and what I believe in, I want to learn X, Y, Z. The third one is being open enough to create and be part of an ecosystem. There's no way we can be part of a global society even if we keep creating products and services in silos. We're creating a service for youth through teachers. But teachers are lacking role models, real role models. They're lacking network. They're lacking the knowledge of tomorrow. They're also questioning, how do I tell my kids or my youngsters that they too deserve a better life? So if the same 4 limitations exist in many, many more dimensions than just youth or me, then by creating the ecosystem, we can fill in the gaps. I think that's the key.
Thank you. Same question there. What are the key skills of tomorrow from your perspective?
Yeah, the key skills for tomorrow. The Ekshard Foundation, together with 29K and a communication agency called New Division, has actually looked at those and looked at, what are the skills that we need in order to grow and transform. And of course, many of the skills that you said here, courage, openness, compassion, all of these things are skills that most people would say, yeah, we need them. But what are they actually? What do they do? And how do we learn them? So what we created is a framework called Inner Development Goals, where we categorized all of these emotional and social cognitive skills that we would need in order to both heal, be well, and thrive. And what we can say about these transformational skills is that you're not born with them. Because many of us think, either I'm born open, or I'm born humble, or I'm born whatever. Yes, we are in one way, but we can all learn them. That requires a little bit of different settings than learning mathematics or a language or some of these. So we also need to learn what are the settings that we need in order to transform and have the transformational skills. But the 5 categories for the skills are, the first is being. Learning the skills of knowing yourself. And underneath those skills are inner compass, knowing what's important to you, knowing, when things feels in your stomach, what is your way, and why, and understand why you think that is important. Openness, self-awareness, all of those kinds of skills. So that's like this first category. The second categories are the cognitive skills we need, thinking. We need to learn to take new perspectives. We need to learn to understand systems. We need to learn sense-making. A lot of the things today we see where young adults don't have any hope. My sense is that because it's a lack of sense-making. We don't know, we don't understand. And so when we can learn that. And a long-term orientation, a capability of drawing the visions. So that's the third. The fourth, or the third category is relating. Caring for each other, caring for things that matters around in the world, not just me, myself, and I, but each other. And that is, of course, learning how to appreciate things, learning how to connect, learning empathy. The fourth category is collaboration. Learning, the social skills for co-creation, communication, you mentioned communication, trust, those kinds of skills. And the fifth category that we identified are acting. We can't sit there. We also need to learn how to act together. And under those come courage, creativity, optimism, but also perseverance. Have the patience. And that's a skill that we also need to acquire. So all of these 23 skills are a sort of transformational skills that when we acquire them, we can both feel better and deal with our physical health, and then also thrive.
Thank you very much, Caroline.
That was really good. I would put it into the skills that computers will not master. And it's all the mentioned skills that the panelists have stated. I believe that we need to teach the young generation critical thinking. There is a lot of disinformation out there. There is a lot of data being collected as well that we need to act upon. And therefore, I believe critical thinking will be one of the most important things in the future for the young generation. I also believe that entrepreneurship in many ways will be needed because we will face a lot of challenges ahead. And we need to find new ways to find solutions to those challenges. Inclusiveness in itself. How do we include others that are not the same as us? I think that will be also an important skill. How can we benefit from the diversity that we have around us that will increase enormously due to the crisis we'll face ahead? And one of the most important things, I believe, is spirituality. We need to teach the young people about spirituality. People are not feeling well today. We can see the mental illness when it comes to young people is increasing. And we need to find ways to help them deal with that. And I think spirituality could be such a way because the world is challenging. We're living in hard times. And we need to find different ways of treating that. So yeah, those are the skills I believe you need.
Thank you very much. We've heard skills that are cognitive, we've heard skills about critical thinking, spirituality. So my follow-up question will be like, how do we equip the youth and the next generation with these skills? And I'll turn it around now, and I'll start it off with you, Fadi.
I think we have to reform the whole school system. I don't hope we don't have any teachers here, right? Oh, we have. Yeah. So I think we have to change the whole system in itself. It's not engaging. It's not stimulating the young to educate themselves. We need to focus on problem-based learning in many ways. and see the skills and the talents that people have and the young generation have, and try to, locate that skill and amplify it. Today, the system is the same for all, and we as humans are complex. We're not the same. We don't have the same passions and etc. So we need to find a system that can adapt for the individual person and not for a class or a group as a whole in itself.
Thank you.
You know the saying, but it takes a community to raise a child? I think it's time for us to ask that the child needs the community right now. And the time, what I mean by, or I said it wrong, but what the research says is that the more you engage in the world, the more you are learning how to become a social entrepreneur, for example, or not everybody are a social entrepreneur, but the more you learn and engage in your community, the more also you develop in your transformational skills. And I think it's time for us to realize that within the school system, within all the, fria aktiviteter.
Free activities.
Free activities, after school.
Like
After school work. So the more that they can engage the youth in being part of the community, that will also develop them with the skills so that you transform. And so we need to do that, and we need to allow them to engage in. And by doing that, they will create these brave spaces, not safe spaces, but brave spaces where you can have your courage, challenge each other, be challenged, and learn to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we create spaces for where we're not stressed, because we can also see that stress hinders us in the development. So learn to agree to disagree requires a community and requires community engagement.
Thank you very much. Transforming our school system and brave spaces instead of just safe spaces.
Yeah. Just to add to your point, I completely agree. I think there needs to be a transformation of education systems and learning systems more broadly to take a more child-centered, playful approach. To prioritize children's well-being, as you were saying, and I think to give children agency. So research and evidence shows that when we as adults, when we see children as capable, when we give them that agency, the learning is more likely to be retained, and it's actually much deeper. So it's about us as adults kind of taking a step back, taking more of a guiding role rather than continuously directing or dictating what children are doing in their learning environments, and giving them the space to make decisions, to experiment in their own learning and take the lead in their own learning, as you were saying. So
And the need for playfulness.
And the need for playfulness as well.
We often forget that.
Yes.
And that's like the bottom line.
Yeah. As I said earlier, play is the most natural way that children learn across all subjects and across all ages. So it's really about prioritizing that.
Thank you very much. We're adding agency as one of the important way of equipping the next generation. Binette?
I seriously thought I could create, or our communities could create, a place for the next coming generation by speaking about them. I think the tendencies we have is speaking about each other rather than with each other. And when we define something like something for the future or define children, it's such a broad aspect that we have to bring it back to the individual. Speaking of societal issues, for instance, it has to go through the organization, and then it goes through relationships. Then it reaches the individual. I've taught myself to put the research into action by live researching what would happen to the individual if we do it the other way around. Looking at who we have around ourselves, who are the people we're talking about, and can we speak to them and ask them what they need? Are they, from an individual perspective, are they curious? Do they want to learn something? Do they want to get a job? Or what are their pain points? Could it be so that we have a lot in common after doing extreme amount of actions? we have a lot in common. For instance, the individual from Stiernstedt has a lot in common with the individual in Ethiopia. But you have to look at the individual and take that step by step through one individual at a time. Make sure that they have a real model, that they have the network they need, that they have the knowledge that they need, but more importantly, that they can transform the knowledge into competence. Then you have to instill with themselves that they do belong and that they do that they are worthy of a better life. Let me give you this example. Can I?
Yes.
So when I speak to youngsters and I go to schools or we invite them to our initiatives, the thing that I often tell them is that you can follow 1 million people and you can actually purchase robots so that it looks like you have 1 million followers. We all know this, right? You can simulate a network through LinkedIn and it's perfect, but can your network be put to use? Do you feel comfortable connecting with another human being? And you can actually print out all the diplomas in the world and we can place them around this beautiful building. But it does not mean, these 3 things does not lead to the job that you need or to the actions that you need to take or to feel that you belong. What makes the difference is knowing that you are worthy of a better life. And I think we are guilty of that. We have to start seeing and talking with people rather than about them. And having the inclusivity aspect on top of everything, it has to do with whom are we talking about? Who are the people that we need to include? And who am I? What actions and access do I have? Do I have the ability to open the door and leave it open for the next coming generation? This is, I think, a deep conversation that we need to put into action.
Thank you very much. The importance of looking around you and seeing who's there and how are we talking about them.
But inclusiveness, we all know how hard it is to learn that. And I think we need to be humble in terms of, yes, it starts with each and every one of us, but also how do we collaborate and learn the skills for starting to reach out a hand to really work with that mindset as you were talking about. And I think that's a skill set that we need to give our youth and have them trained on that equally together with us as an adult.
Just to add to that, I believe that we have had a strong emphasis on knowledge, on education, on teachers and schools, etc. We've had a strong emphasis that the whole system needs to change and all of that. But what if we just placed a question instead into the infrastructure that we've already created? And the question that we ask ourselves is, what happens to the individual? What happens to you when you are expected to learn, but you need the most fundamental skills in order to learn on an individual basis? And you have to be curious enough to understand, what are the ways I learn? And what are the things I need in order to thrive or make the actions I need in my life? So having the educational skill set or the teaching around it, it's very important. But I think sometimes you can just place the question instead. What happens to you?
Thank you very much. I think that I need to move on. I'm sorry. You guys were a little bit into...
That's resilience.
Yes.
Conversations will continue after the stage as well. This talk might turn into a podcast. So I'm trying to be very restrictive with interrupting you guys, but I need to move on now. Having listened to your fellow panelists from different sectors, what kind of challenges are you seeing in being able to achieve your respective goals? And Caroline and Binette, you already been into it a little bit, so I would like to invite Fadi to the conversation. What challenges are you seeing in front of us?
there is a lot of challenges, but there is also a lot of possibilities in those challenges as well. Collaboration between the public and the private sector in different ways. If we speak formally about Sweden and the challenges we have, we need a much higher level of collaboration between the private and the public sector and the NGOs and etc. We're far behind there, as I see it. We're still in our own islands working with finding solutions instead of discussing those solutions together and trying to move forward with a common goal. I believe that's one of the biggest challenges we're facing, and especially now when we have forces within, because our politicians in the end, they're the ones that are ruling the public sector. It will be very interesting to see if they will look towards finding a common ground for everyone regarding diversity, inclusion, and integration, etc. Because what we've been doing in Sweden for the last 30 years is actually assimilation. We haven't fully understood, for example, what the word integration means. And integration means that we take two differences and create something new out of those two. And since when did we do that? Whenever we talk about integration, we talk about assimilation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see more assimilation. So what will the effects of that be? And I think that will be a hard thing to tackle.
Thank you. Michelle, any challenges ahead that you see?
To your point about collaboration and taking multi-sectoral approaches, I completely agree with that. I think across sectors we need to do a better job of coordinating. Children don't just exist in schools and learning environments. They're part of the community, they're at home, they're in health settings. So the key stakeholders in each of those settings need to work together in order to be able to amplify the impact we seek to achieve for and with children and young people when it comes to holistic skills development.
Thank you. Today has been about focusing on solutions and engaging a wider audience. So I would like to ask you guys what your call to action is. Like, what can people listening do to support youth skills development? Should I start with you, Binette?
I'm like, choose me, please.
I saw the eyes.
But I mean, I just want to remind you guys that the four limitations that I mentioned in the beginning, it has to do with you. You being the role model that the next coming generation needs, you being the network that they need, you being the source of competence and knowledge that they need. And eventually, when you believe that you're worthy of a better life, everyone else deserves a better life. Because you get out of your own way, and now you start to serve. That's one call of action. See yourself as the key, basically. And definitely part of a solution, but you're a key. And leave the door open, please, for everyone else that wants to get in. Another call of action is be brave enough to rewrite the future by making history. Be brave enough, literally. And I think bravery has it's linked to films often, but it's not enough, we don't have enough spaces or opportunities to discuss what that means and what that looks like in my mother, father, teacher, or my employee, or me as an employer. Just being brave enough is failing, and then being smart enough to use the word differently in your own mind. Like reprogramming the system of failures and mistakes. Reprogram it and give it a new name. Please call it learning. Please call it learning and keep learning. And be very vigilant when it comes to the spaces and the places where you can learn. And try to hack them. Because when you hack them, other people will enter easily. And their lives can definitely change, and it changes the trajectory of the next coming generations.
Thank you, Binette. Caroline, what is your call to action?
I think it's similar to you, but I would use the other words. We are all leaders. If you're going to lead others, start with leading yourselves. So my call to action is to really understand yourself. Start to learn yourself. You know, who are you? What is motivating you? What is driving you? Learn how to. The word of dialogue, for example, is what dialogue really means is listen together. and I think when we have dialogue, we don't listen it to each other. We don't build on each other. So, you know, it really starts by us understanding how reflective in our daily life are we in terms of really truly understand each other and yourself. So that would be my call to action, and also try to I mean, all of these, be brave, be curious, be authentic, all of those skills we need, take perspective seeking, all of these skills are important. But it's not like you can go to read a book and think that, okay, now I learned how to take new perspectives. Or, okay, I buy a dog and now I become more compassionate. It doesn't work that way.
Wow.
So really, I mean, learning thyself takes time. And allow the time together. And be kind to yourself in that time. And stick to your journey and your curiosity in that, because for me it's really been by, you know, one door opens and then you think that you can close that one, but when you are almost closing it and think, okay, I got it, now I understand a bit of piece of myself, then 10 new doors opens, and you can say, oh, I didn't know I had that backside as well. So you know. Really, 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 truly step into this journey of having fun with yourself. Learn to, you know, lead others by leading yourself.
Thank you. Fadi?
Actually, I read on the sign, reach for change. So I guess I'll propose that we should reach for change and try to be brave enough to believe in ourselves that we can also be a part of the bigger change. I normally say, be the change you want to see in the world. So it comes back to yourself. And I know we have a lot of people here that works for this change. And that shows that it's possible for everyone to actually be a part of that change in itself. So reach for change. That's my advice.
Nice touch there.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough one to follow. I would say see children and young people as capable, include them in the work that you do and include them early and listen to them. And also just continue to actively engage them in the work that you do and the communities that you seek to support. Yes. That's my main call to action.
I agree.
Thank you very much to this amazing panelist. Include the children and youth, be brave, don't be afraid of failure. We are all leaders and reach for change. That was a good call to action from our panelists. A big applause, thank you.